Hello and welcome to Reddit Tell. Today we are going to be looking at r/relationship advice. If you do like this video, give it a like, subscribe to the channel, and with that out the way, on with the story. My 33 female husband, 40 male, is considering conceiving a child with his ex. I'll preface with the fact that therapy is an absolute given already, so I will be seeking that out. But in the meantime, I need some advice to just process what to even say to a therapist when the time comes. Okay, so the title needs explanation because it is a complicated and nuanced emotional situation. Apologies in advance for rambling. I am still trying to make sense of the entire situation while grieving and just trying to get the pertinent details out for advice. My husband and I have been happily married for 3 years now. My husband had a son from a previous relationship before we got together. I have been in my stepson's life since he was 2 years old. He turned 6 years old this year and got along very well. My stepson's bio mum, BM, and I have never been friends in any capacity, but have always been cordial, respectful on the rare times we interact, and never had any issues with one another. My husband and BM are similarly cordial, respectful, and communicative around their son's needs, but not really friends beyond that. We pretty much adhered to a parallel parenting style and it worked fine. 4 weeks ago, my stepson tragically and very suddenly died from an infection. It has been just absolutely devastating for everyone. BM is especially just wrecked. Her son was literally her entire life and purpose as a stay-at-home single mum. My grief cannot compare to the level I know she feels, and I do have compassion for that. My husband is, of course, also exceptionally distraught. I've been doing my best to be understanding in how they both need to grieve as parents. 2 days ago, my husband said he had something he needed to discuss with me. He explained that BM approached him with a request. She asked my husband to be her sperm donor for IUI/IVF, as she desperately wants to be a mum again and wants to conceive a child with the same partner that her son had. He basically made it clear it is something he is willing, even wanting to do, but knows he needs to understand how I feel about it. Well, I don't know how exactly to communicate what I feel about it at this point, but the feelings are not good ones. I told him I needed some time to process this. My husband and I have been trying to have a child of our own for the past few months, so this is even more personally difficult for me to take in. I think I already know that I am not okay with my husband having another child with his ex, but I am thinking of suggesting we offer her financial support to seek out alternative fertility options that do not involve my husband's sperm, and quite honestly, do not involve 18 years of co-parenting. I'm actually not even sure what BM and my husband are thinking regarding that in this scenario. Additionally, BM is 41 years old, so there is a high probability this whole situation would be a lot of money and time spent without any results. Overall, I think I'm just in shock here. I feel disrespected and angry, but I also understand it's not really just about me here, and that both of them are struggling to cope with this unimaginable grief. I would just appreciate some level advice from people outside this situation, specifically advice on how I should convey that I am not on board with this without making it a point of contention. Edit. Thank you so much already for the responses. I feel like this is happening to someone else. It is such a shocking and emotional wave after wave. Very difficult to process and think totally rationally. I honestly consider understanding and compassion to be personal strengths of mine. So I appreciate the replies acknowledging that. I am not betraying that by being a firm no on facilitating this situation. I would just add that I am fortunate to be financially stable independently, and my husband and I had already set aside a fairly significant sum specifically for child support. So even had this specific scenario not arisen, I feel obligated to offer some, if not all of that, to BM, since it was always intended to go to her and son. Anyway, I will keep reading through replies. Thank you again. And at this point, plan to speak with my husband this evening about feeling it is inappropriate to consider this now and dealing with his grief first and foremost with professional help. Update. Thank you again to the blunt takes on my situation. Days are still mostly a blur right now, and writing out my issue and reading through the straightforward advice did help ground me a bit. I went ahead and took action on something I could control, reached out to my therapist and got a reference for a couples counsellor who is specifically experienced in dealing with grief and child loss. I was thankfully able to get us fit in for an appointment this week. After I returned home from work last night, my husband came into our room and immediately started sobbing and apologising. He had spoken with his dad that day and told him what BM had proposed. My father-in-law, bless him, had apparently really went off on the delusion of it. My husband and I had a long into the early morning talk about it, and he was able to recognise and explain that what seemed like interest in BM's request was misplaced desires. He explained that he's been so focused and excited about the prospect of planning for a child with me for the last 4 months and envisioning life as a father of 2, and it felt confusing to still be feeling that while dealing with the devastation of losing his son. BM's ask was a total shock for him too, and when you're face to face with someone grieving so deeply, asking for your help / a solution, however absurd it is, it's not always as easy to think logically. He was receptive and seemed relieved to have the therapy appointment. So I am hopeful that will be a start in unpacking these complicated and conflicting feelings. We agreed that he should ultimately end all contact with BM, but we'll still consider what sort of short-term / lump sum financial support makes sense with consult from a lawyer to keep it entirely copacetic. I realise some commenters find the financial part odd, but I just feel strongly about extending appropriate generosity in this transition, since we have the means to do so. We also agreed to hold off on any child planning until sufficient time and counselling takes place. Also, I just want to address the comments on stay-at-home single mum aspect in defence of BM. I only mentioned that part to say how entirely devoted she was to her son. She was the primary physical caregiver, and yes, the child support order was enough that it allowed her the option to stay home full-time and live comfortably, but not extravagantly. Is it the same decision I would make as a career-minded person? No, but that was her prerogative, and I do respect that. I really don't know much about BM as a person, but what I do know is that she was raising a kind, funny, and smart boy who was loved and cared for, and that was what ultimately mattered. To say there's a lot still up in the air emotionally is an understatement. My husband and I are saying the right things to each other now. who knows what it will end up being in practice, but I am hopeful at this point that my husband and I will be able to move forward together. Update 2. I received many very kind, compassionate, helpful comments and PMs from my original posts, and thought it would be easier to update here for those that ask because it's a wild development. I think you can see the previous posts on my account in the comments as they were removed for low karma on this account. So I found out that my husband did not tell me the truth about BM's request. The truth being that he and BM had frozen embryos when they were together from years ago, and she was planning to use those. I obviously had no idea they had done this and likely would have never known if not for the fact that BM did have a successful implantation and is now in her first trimester. So my husband was forced to come clean. The distress I feel about everything that has happened in the past 4 months is beyond words. So that's it. That's the update. I don't know what to do regarding so many things about this. At least I have a good therapist. Poor OP. What a mess that is. I really feel for the grieving parents. What a hard time it is for anyone to lose a child, especially so young. But I personally don't think it's appropriate to have a child, even if it's by IVF, with your ex-partner whilst you are married. That is not acceptable. Not unless your wife is on board with that. And I can't see many wives being on board with that. And also, she's trying for her own baby. OP sounds like a really nice lady. She seems supportive. She's offered financial support. How her husband thought that he would just keep it a secret. It just happens one day when they've got this monthly payment going out of their account again for child support, and then he's going to come clean. I would like to see where this relationship is going to go. Is this relationship going to make it, or has this just broke it? What do you think? Let me know in the comments below. Do you think OP should stay with her husband? Very difficult situation. But as I said, let me know in the comments below what you think. And if you did like this video, give it a like and consider subscribing to the channel. I upload similar stories every weekday, and I will see you in the next one.